Good evening, everyone. We are here at the World Championship in Erbach. It's Thursday night. We had very exciting flights, but tonight it's not about our World Championship. It's about the future of GPS flying. We have here Andrej Vrecer. He's the guy behind RC Electronics, which provides all the GPS tooling we are flying, and also that new platform. We will talk about it now. And on the other side, of course, we have our chief pilot, Philipp Kolb. He will talk us through some flights. We will try to do it in kind of two languages. So wir sprechen auch in Deutsch, wenn wir dieses neue System euch vorstellen. Der Andrej Vrecer hat dieses mit seinem Programmierteam entwickelt und wir werden euch jetzt mal einen Flug analysieren und werden das Step by Step durchgehen. Okay, Andrej. Thank you very much for coming. You spent a hell of a lot of work. Tell us what you did.
Yeah, hi everybody. Well, we did basically the last year we did a new platform called the RC Model Spot, which is at the moment still at the beta testing stage, but we have to start somewhere. And the Erbach World 2022 Sportclass was the first competition which we tried to mimic and have the unofficial results also on this new platform, and to really try the new feature, which is the replay of the groups being flown on the field, so everybody from the world could see what we are seeing here and experience a little bit what we experience and what the tactics are, what the altitudes are, and how fast we fly and so on.
So auf Deutsch übersetzt, der Andrej und sein Team haben eine Plattform generiert, die heißt rcmodelspot.com. Die könnt ihr jetzt schon aufrufen. Ihr könnt euch da auch schon einlesen und euer Profil erstellen. Und er würde euch jetzt heute Abend zusammen mit mir und dem Philipp einen Flug vorstellen. Und das Ganze ist, dass man das analysieren kann. Das heißt, man kann Flüge zusammenlegen. Und der Philipp Kolb wird euch jetzt mal erklären, was wir da genau machen.
So first of all, I will switch back to English. We can maybe translate it later. What Andrej did is a little bit of a kind of mimic of full-scale soaring, where you see already flights which were done on a world championship or any kind of competition. And in here we will try and analyze a flight which we actually did yesterday morning. And it was an amazing flight, because even in the morning we already had really good air. You were in this heat. It was the flight of round 7 of this Sportclass World Championship, Heat B. The group before, we experienced 13 laps flown by Andreas Kunz, and everybody was just like tiptoeing out there and saying, wow, in the morning, how is it possible? And it was a kind of weather phenomenon that a warm air bubble was just lifting, and we had real good thermals, astonishingly. And in this thermal, it was Daniel flying against Tobias Ebner, my teammate, and then we had Hans-Peter Bell in this slot, Benjamin Dehn, Shandor Pasti, Gustav Pruss, and Ian Medley-Rose. And as you see right now on the result list, Daniel was winning the group by 10 laps, and you already can see that he entered the course 3 minutes later. So this might be one crucial point for the decision that he got 1 lap over Tobias. And then the others, as you see, they were 3 laps behind. So, Andrej, not to overcrowd this graphics, but maybe we can now take a look on the replay of this group. And this is quite interesting for the future for you at home. When there is a competition going, you can sit there, and maybe you had no chance to come because you were on a job or business trip, but you can stay at home and take a look upon the flight, which is done live by the whole group. So, what will we see right now? We are seeing the airfield.
Yeah, so basically in the video you could see where the mice was. So basically you can go and press the competition icon and you will get the Erbach Worlds 2022 Sports Class GPS Triangle competition. You can select the heat and press the reply button. You will see the group which is listed on the left upper side, all the pilots who have been flying this group. On the bottom you see the altitude profiles of all the pilots with also the markers for crossing the laps, starting, arming the task. And on the main screen there is basically the triangle which is being flown, and the gliders at the moment are still on the ground. Using the mice and scrolling over the altitude profiles, basically you can see a lot of data going on, and if you click on it, the simulation will go with normal speed, which is basically what we fly. As at the moment you can see it's a lot of data. We will disable all the other pilots and we will only focus on Daniel and Tobias, which was coached by Philipp Kolb.
Yes, so to make it more easy for you guys to understand, es einfacher zu machen, zu verstehen. Das Coole an dieser Plattform ist, dass ihr alles analysieren könnt in der Zukunft. Ihr könnt auch gegen eure Freunde fliegen, abends diese Flüge analysieren, und man kann also von Thermiksteigungsvergleichen bis hin zu Rundenzeiten mehr oder weniger alles analysieren auf dieser Plattform, was sicher in den Wintermonaten sehr spannend ist. Um es einfacher zu machen, hat der Andrej gerade gesagt, werden wir jetzt den Flug nehmen und den Tobias Ebner, der gecoacht wurde von Philipp Kolb, somit weiß er genau Bescheid, und ich als Hauptkonkurrent gegen den Tobias geflogen in dem Heat, werden jetzt den Flug analysieren, und ich habe es selber auch noch nicht gesehen, so it's really interesting to see how we did. So I think I hand over the microphone to Philipp, and as they were flying in a little bit earlier, he will tell you all about it.
So for the beginning, we can take a look upon the altitude profiles in the lower graphics, and you can see that there are a lot of bubbles above, and it says just like ARM and STA and ARM and STA. That means that the system, you have this navigation system on board of your plane, is armed because you want to cross the start line. There's only a time window of 8 minutes where you need to cross the start line, but you can freely choose your time of start. And I know, as I take a look upon it, you were not just starting and flying, you were testing, and then you armed again because Daniel was using this time window because he said, I didn't start very well, and I see that maybe Tobias got a better start and he wants to fly later and take a look upon the concurrents, and he wants to get better air.
So I explain you what I actually did. So basically, as Philipp said, we have the time window from 8 minutes, so 8 Minuten Rahmenzeit, wo wir auch den Motor mehrmals anstellen dürfen. Bin ich ganz am Anfang eingeflogen und habe auf der zweiten Strecke einen Aufwindfeld entdeckt. Okay? Da ich dieses Aufwindfeld entdeckt habe und gedacht habe, dass das nachher immer noch da ist, ist der Tobias in der Zwischenzeit eingeflogen. Ich habe absichtlich nochmal restartet und bin etwas zeitverzögert hinterhergeschossen und habe dann versucht, in diesen Thermal reinzugehen. As you can see, I started again later, as I just mentioned in German, and I was trying to catch this thermal which I had before. So Tobias basically took the lead, and the rest you will see now. Okay, Andrej, sorry.
Yeah.
I would just like to comment out that you can click on the pilot from the list, and the pilot you have clicked will be colored yellow, and it will have the altitude as an above ground level, and all others will have the altitude relative to the pilot selected. So it's easier to track them, how high they are, higher they are or lower they are, and how many laps they have. So it's really easy to see where somebody lost or where somebody gained.
And now, as I see that both have 0 laps, but Tobias already started, is that right? And Daniel is just waiting, and he tries to follow Tobias after he started. Yeah, and you see now Tobias, the white plane, he got this thermal and he's already on his first lap and he's starting to circle. Why do I understand this? Because normally you take the turn leftward, but in this group everybody needs to circle right. We do this kind of rule that in one group we are circling right, the other group we are circling left, not to enlarge the risk of collisions. And now Tobias' plane is getting blue. What does that mean?
If the plane is blue, that means it's higher than the selected one. If it's red, it's lower. If it's white, it's plus minus 20 meters, so more or less same height.
And I see you, Daniel. You're taking the same thermal, but you're not even started yet. And Tobias is, of course, climbing, and he's
still very weak.
Yes, we can see. Maybe in the future we can even see the Vario, but on the lower graph you can see that Tobias is, after his start,
30 meters lower.
and he's lower because
Dani is using the motor now.
Now Dani is using the motor to accelerate and to make a good start. A good start is crossing this yellow line towards the pink sector which you see below 400 meters and below 120 kilometers per hour. Now Daniel is taking his start, he's accelerating, and it was a good start at about 390 meters as I saw. And Tobias is now 50 meters higher. Yeah, but he lost a lot of time against you.
That was my plan.
Yeah, maybe maybe 3 minutes in front of you, so he has only 27 minutes. And I see you are rushing because you understand that the thermal is there and you want to catch up with Toby. Tactically, that's of course a point. If the thermal now would break down, then Daniel's tactic won't work anymore.
You will see.
But
Look at the sink.
he is now 93 meters below. We need to explain, for one full lap, which is about 1.7 kilometers in straight line, for one full lap in zero air you need at least 70 meters. So Toby has now 100 meters above him. So he is about 450 meters high, and he still is doing a circle in here, but he's not gaining. You see, this might have been just, I heard something in the Vario, but he's doing a circle.
Look at the lost guy there.
Look at the last guy.
Sinking.
So where's your thermal, Daniel?
The problem is my tactic was really well, but you know how it is in life, sometimes it just doesn't play out. So as you can see the altitude, I wanted to catch the same thermal which I discovered, and Toby really got nicely and he made the best out of it, and I really screwed it up and I couldn't catch it. And you can see now I'm fighting the life. Toby has 130 meters advantage of me and I'm kind of lost, and the thermal was absolutely gone.
Yeah, and at this point, for the others, it's also necessary to know that maybe the time window has closed, so Dani cannot restart anymore. Even if he is 120 meters lower, he can't restart anymore. So now he has to fight. And as we will see at the end, being low at the start doesn't mean you will be slowest at the end.
And I need to explain something as well. As we are still in the morning, it's about 9:50 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So the thermals are still a little weak. And Tobias is doing a little bit of a crisscross style in here. And he's not gaining a lot upon you.
Not really losing.
But he's also not losing. And this is the thing. You're either gambling of, taking only the good thermals, or you're gambling of staying up in the air. And in the morning, you're not sure that in this it was special. We had actually quite good thermals, but you still have this feeling in your mind it could break down, and you still have 25 minutes to go.
So I had one lap. You can see me being quite lost, still believing that I get the thermal. Tobias having a 130-meter advantage on top of me, you can imagine that I can see how high his plane is, and I'm there completely lost. So I decided to also continue and fly laps, not to lose too much lap time on him.
So if this would have been on the same time scale, let's remember that Daniel has a time advantage of 3 minutes. If he finds a good thermal, he has 3 minutes more to work on it. So this can come in the end in favor of Daniel, definitely. At the moment, if you just take a look upon this, if there is no time, then if they would still fly like a match race, then Tobias has 1 lap, Daniel has 1 lap, but Tobias has about 100 meter more of altitude. And now let's take a look. Tobias is crossing the 3rd turn point and is now flying again towards the start-finish line. And he will finish lap 2. And Daniel is still working for his first lap. So, yeah, I still see Tobias he's looking like the winner right now. But yeah, the cards could get mixed due to this. Yeah,
100 meters more.
Yeah, actually 1 lap advantage, like Andrej just said, and 100 meters more means he can do 1 more lap than Daniel. So he would have had 2 laps, in advantage. But now let's take a look upon this. It's getting more interesting right now.
Yeah, especially if when Tobias, we can see it on the bottom side of the window. That the altitude profile of Tobias will now show the thermal. He will, even if it's already 1 lap in front of him, higher than him, he also found the thermal before Danny got him. And that's really frustrating for the pilot.
Show it with the mouse where we are right now.
If I put the mouse over it, okay.
Yeah,
We are here.
Yeah.
So
Just to show everybody.
So when I was flying far past that section, I felt that there's some bubbles going around, but it was too early. So I decided to put in another quick lap. And then I saw Toby getting into this thermal, starting to climb. And I was about to cry, okay, because I was already disadvantaged.
But I need to tell, Toby now has 184 meters. But you need to know, in the morning, thermals are developing a little different than in the afternoon. In the morning, there's still some heating going on the ground, and thermals are sometimes a little, what we call, fluffy, and you can get maybe half a circle climb, half a circle 0, half a circle climb, and they take a long while till they really materialize. Yeah, Daniel, what did you do? But you can tell by the altitude profile after lap 2. Toby has a very stable climb, but it is not rising very fast because it's such a morning thermal which needs to develop.
Yeah, but at the moment 250 meters on the same lap, that's perfect.
He has a 250 meter advantage. He's climbing like a rock, and maybe you can see on my profile that I'm not climbing. So I was at 227 meter altitude and I couldn't find that thermal. I was trying so hard, and because of safety regulation, to be sure we don't have any problems, we have a safety zone above our airfield, which you cannot cross, you get this disadvantage. And we also have a road, a really high frequency road. There is also a Sperrzone, we call it a safety zone, okay? So the thermal moved to the Sperrzone, and my coach, Holger Genkinger, said, you cannot go even 20 minutes further because you will hit the thing. And I was like, I knew that Toby has about 200 meters advantage on me, but to see the truth now, I'm even in more pain than before.
100 meters.
So this was looking actually quite good, and I still need to stress this this working time. Daniel still has the opportunity, even after Tobias has landed, to fly 3 minutes more than him. And if he
want to have the 3 minutes?
In this case, we really would have wanted to.
Yeah.
Let's see how that plays out.
But maybe right now you can see that Daniel, now we are at 755 on the lower scale. Daniel's thermal kicks in better, you see?
Yes.
it's getting there.
Yes.
So this is what Daniel stressed out. Tobias was scared to hit this this safety area over this road which you see to our left-hand side, and Daniel, he takes the risk to go further towards this zone but not hitting it, and there he finds the thermal to be stronger, and he
184.
yeah, but now you can take a look. Tobias takes not the core of the thermal anymore, he takes the outskirt of the thermal and climbs still with, let's say, maybe 0.6, 0.7 meters. But your thermal now kicks in. It kicks in maybe at twice the amount of climb. So you have a vario of about 1 meter, maybe even more. So now Tobias decides,
you gain 40 meters.
Yeah.
Funny. In 2 turns.
Yeah,
against
and
Tobias.
that's it. And there Tobias just said, okay, now we have a lot of altitude. You see where we have the peak, and then he flies off. Yeah, you want to say something?
I mean, my coach was like, no, this is the zone. I was like, what the zone? I'd rather be dead or hit the zone, whatever you want. And it was so strong on the edge here. And I was pretty much like this. And Holger's like, no. I was like, okay, can do. And then Tobias actually decided to go. And I got kind of a bit lucky that the thermal, you can see, started to shift away from the point.
And it's still stronger.
Yes.
You know, if you take a look at Tobias' climb, he climbed it very nicely, but at a climb rate of, let's say, 0.5 meters per second. Yeah, Andrej is showing it right now. And you know, if you climb 2 minutes in an 0.5 meter thermal, you can calculate you gain 6 meters. If you climb 2 minutes in a 1 meter thermal, you gain 120 meters. And that's the thing. In GPS triangle, it's not just about staying in the air, it's efficiency and finding the best thermal and maxing out the thermal. And now you see, yeah, you're getting more happy because Tobias was flying out and he hits the sink. On this side of the course, of course, there is now sink because the thermal where Daniel, the yellow plane, is still circling, is sucking the air off, and it leaves sink on the course. And right now, we will see. Dani.
Flight time from Tobias?
8
minutes
only.
No. We don't know.
Okay, we don't know.
We will show this later.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something which Andrej will develop.
So
This will be
Tobias
nice.
has,
Yeah.
1 lap advantage on me now.
Now he has 1 lap advantage,
no more
but he's
altitude.
10 minutes lower because you regained. Yeah, now you look more. But I see you will go right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can see it on the altitude profile, and now it's
Tobias is
really
coming. I have to
interesting.
go.
What's really interesting on the altitude profile right now is that the descent rate is almost the same for both of you.
Yeah, they are flying together.
And they're flying together in the same air
Maybe
mass
Tobias
right
should
now.
go into this thermal, but it was further out.
It was very far away, yes. And you know, we have less time on our clock than Daniel.
But 1 less lap.
One more
Yeah,
lap, yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Nevertheless, now they are both together and about 7 meters apart in altitude.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Tobias almost hit the turn, but then he needed to just cross a little right. Yes. And right now they are together. And Tobias is 1 lap ahead, but he only has 3 minutes less time. And to our spectators out there, on a dead air round, when you want to go around the triangle, it takes about 1 minute and 55 seconds. So 3 minutes is fine to regain 1 lap. So now let's take a look. It's just downhill.
Basically, you have like a minute 20 to thermal and the rest to finish 1 more lap.
Exactly. So if
minutes.
Daniel in the end finds better air, he still can cover up.
Cover up, catch you.
Sounds quite positive, actually. I never saw it that way.
But now you might be able to understand what kind of excitement goes on when you're in the pilot box on such a race, and you need to understand that there are 5 more planes in the air at the same time.
I can just briefly enable them,
Yeah.
so you will see where everybody else is going and fighting. and then we will turn them off.
Yeah, not to confuse.
So
Yeah.
some of them were in thermals, some of them on the course. Okay.
And this makes the flying for the helpers very, very
Easier.
yeah, but even very stressful, because you need to take an eye on everybody on the field just to give your pilot the best information. Who is where and which plane is thermaling, which is hitting maybe very, very bad sink, so that you can try and avoid it. So can you remember that you were following Toby at this point?
Yeah, I knew that I was following him, and I knew that I had a time advantage on him, but it was really difficult to kind of understand how much time advantage was. I knew it's around 2 to 3 minutes, but as Philip said, I'm calculating with the 2 minutes per lap, which is kind of, for sure, it's a bit below. If you fly fast speed, you do 1.5 minutes. If you fly super fast, it's like 1 minute. It's very easy to
You lose the altitude.
you lose the altitude, of course. And I knew that I'm 1 lap behind and I have a little bit more time. But having these conditions here in Erbach, which sometimes are brutal, like today I had a 7.5 meter descent, you kind of get afraid from it all. And I would prefer to have a 1 lap advantage, of course, but I knew that I'm kind of still in the game. But as I was just following Toby, I kind of could not have my own tactic, except I decided to do my own tactics, which I did, and you will see that now.
So we're still in the race. Tobias finished the 5th, you finished the 4th. And
he
we are
is
still
gaining the
sinking.
altitude. So
Yeah.
now he is gaining the altitude against Tobias. So Daniel was better.
Yeah, Tobias right now is moving on, because he sees, okay, I have not so much time on my hand. I need to go towards a kind of final
The
glide.
altitude is still 240 meters.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
It's not so bad. Out of
Yeah.
240 meters, you can do at least 3 triangles in still air. And right now, Tobias is still in the lead.
We're getting lower, you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can basically, for the altitude reference, you take the Daniel's box, as this is the above the ground level, and you just remove the 40 meters, and you see that Tobias it's
under
200 meters. Yeah.
And
if
now
you just click away, then both of the pilots have the absolute altitude.
okay.
And now we see Daniel is breaking away, because he understands I still have more time, and if I follow, I will end up with 1 lap less.
Yes.
So now you can explain what you did in here. You did a totally different route.
Did you see
So,
something?
so I was talking to Holger, and we knew before we had the thermals in that area, and I knew if I gonna follow Toby, and I saw that I'm like 50 meters advantage of him. But as Philip said before, you need about 70 to 100 meters to make a lap. I knew if I just gonna follow him, I will not do an extra lap. So if I just follow him, I will lose anyway. So I felt that the air was getting better after the turning point right away. So I was trying to maybe find a thermal which are in that section. And as the air got better, I kind of got the hope that it might work out. So I was really floating. And then I got that thermal there on the edge where we had thermals before.
Did you see a bird soaring there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also you must realize that if you check the length of the task, it's 350 meters. So it's a double length. So then he went 700 meters away. In the real life, that's far away and small plane.
So this was a really tough decision, and you wanted to make the best out of it, because you knew you have more time.
And it's light, huh?
Yeah, you're
not really there.
You can also
climbing.
see on
Yeah,
the altitude profile that
yeah.
the climb rate before was much, much better.
And yeah, right
he's
now,
coming again and I'm still crying.
yeah, and right now Tobias is happy because he's about 100 meters in altitude, and he
To left.
sees you
6
Yeah.
to 4.
6 to 4. But he still has time on his hands. But now he tries to steal your thermal, like you were stealing his before.
So exactly. So Tobias saw, I mean, I felt the massive disadvantage having 6 to 4 laps, it's a lot. I knew I had the time advantage, but you know how the mental game is. I'm really strong mentally, but if a guy comes into your thermal and he has 2 laps advantage on you, it's not like you're feeling like, wow, this is gonna be great, okay? And as you can see in the beginning, that thermal, it's true, I got it, but it wasn't really there yet. I kind of had to create it myself first, mixing it up pretty much. And Tobias came, and I had a nice 150 meter advantage on him. But as you can see, the wind was going actually in this direction, but the thermal shifted in the other direction. So I got a little bit irritated. So many times I did kind of an oval circle to make sure I can really get the sweet spot. And I saw Toby is climbing next to me, and I had the feeling that my position had more potential, but I couldn't, you see.
More or less the same. On the altitude profile.
Okay, but you can see I got really kind of frustrated, so I was moving to the side. Then I did a big circle, moving to the back. And I think there, where you can see me now, I actually realized that I have it really good. And you can also see that I'm getting more and more advantage on him. So you can see I lost it many, many times. So I had to kind of re-center again.
We can explain this a little. When you're alone in a fluffy build-up thermal with a 7 kilograms heavy plane, it's 7 kilos, you were flying full ballast. And we need to explain this as well. We had some kind of really tough ground wind. It wasn't really hard, but it was coming over a kind of hill, so it was turbulent, and the thermals were forming in turbulent air. So most of the times, and now most of the times we were trying to center these thermals, which were not really centerable. So I see you doing some oval to recenter, which is a very good tactic. After you think you got the thermal and you're climbing, and then the climb is getting less. This is the actual thing which you should do first. You shouldn't think, oh, the thermal is over, I need to go. No, try and recenter it, like Daniel was showing it to you, that you do an oval, maybe an oval into 2 or 3 directions, and you always listen to the tone of your vario, because when you're 700 meters away, your visual sight doesn't indicate you that much like your acoustic signal of the vario does. And yeah, you wanted to add something in here.
Yeah, basically what we can see from the tail at this part where Tobias was circling, he made wider circles, and Danny is using more sharp. So he is more in the center, and Tobias was more flat, not losing as much. As at one moment he realized, or Philip says, hey, Danny has it better, he moved to Danny, and then at that moment they split. This is also what happens many times, that the thermal just splits and both of them have a thermal, but Danny has it better.
Yeah, must be the flying skills, right? No, it's kind of a tactic which you do with the wind, and you really cannot tell in advance which way is the better way. So I saw that we're getting apart, but as you see, or you don't know actually, but there was quite some wind. And as you choose kind of your direction to go, there's not much space you can decide on. So rather you make the right move and you grab it, or you do the wrong move and then you continue. And as you can see, of course I got a bit lucky here. I got kind of the better angle, I would say. So Tobias decided before to go, and I really got the altitude advantage. And just that you understand this, everything above 400 meters feels really good. Everything below 300 meters feels really bad, especially at 10 o'clock in the morning. So this is also a mental thing, and it helps you. So now it was not about having the extra altitude on Tobias. It was more like, oh yes, I have 3 minutes more. Oh yes, I'm over 400 meters. I did still feel that I'm really bad behind Tobias, but I knew at least I saved the altitude a little bit. Okay.
And you're right. Actually, with Tobias, we were in the final glide right now. We still had about 200 meters of altitude where you can fly in good conditions 3 times around the triangle, and in bad conditions at least 2 times. So I said, okay, give it a go. We can at least go around 2 times before the time is shutting down. Of course, Tobias could have gone out and find another thermal, but that doesn't help anything anymore because the time window is closing. So he's racing right now. This is the last lap right now, and I told him it's about 2 minutes 40, 3 minutes to go. And when you hit massive air, then you can hope for an extended final glide. And Daniel, as you see, still has time on his hands. He's actually crossing the sector where his old thermal was. If you go back,
He didn't even thermal and gain the altitude.
And as I understand, you were following these tactics to still get into the vicinity of this old thermal. Maybe you can't hit the core, but you will fly back in good air, just to elongate your glide.
So I wanted to make sure I can save as much altitude as possible, and I did have the feeling that the course between turn point 1 and 2 was very weak, and between 2 and 3, especially going a bit more outside, it felt a bit more smooth, I would say. And as I had some time and I still felt that massive disadvantage of the 2 laps, I said I have to save some altitude somewhere to maybe get through.
And I remember up to this point, of course, I was telling Toby, yeah, you have 30 more meters, you can try, but it doesn't look like we get one more. We got 9 laps, and actually we're quite happy with it, because I think out of our time we made quite the best of it. You see Toby right now, okay, he is landing in the box, and when you're not landing in the box,
only 6.
Exactly, and I saw we were fine, and when Daniel doesn't get good air in his final glide, it will be an even race.
Look how far I went down.
But then I was going towards you, and I understood, okay, the air is getting better. As Daniel just said, we had massive sink between turn point 1 to 2, and this moved away to equal air. And right now for Tobias, yes, of course, you can collect your mistakes, but it wouldn't help us, I say, in this moment to change to 10 laps.
I actually would say, after looking at Tobias' flights, about talking about mistakes or no mistake, there were no tactical mistakes really. There was this one decision on the thermal there, which is not like a big mistake. It was a bit more luck, and then here I still had really bad air, and as you can see from 2 to 3 I went off because I was so afraid to fall from the sky because the air was so bad over here. So I just had to kind of risk it. And how shocking it is, I'm only at 270 meters on my 8th lap, so
you need to do 2.5 more laps to have 1 more lap than Toby. And maybe for the spectators it's interesting, why doesn't Toby move on and try to get a thermal low and maybe in the end land out, but he has the laps. Actually, when you land out, you get 0 landing score, and to get the landing score is worth 2 triangles. So you should always land on the field. So right now we see Daniel finishing.
Good job for him now. Just one light
and now,
already, huh?
If you have 0 air right now, it's like Andrej says, it's an easy job. 100 meters per lap. In the big sink before, this wasn't possible to do 2 laps, but right now Daniel has time on his end, and
basically you can see now it's 200 meters. And he finished the lap 8, and if we can move back on the lap 7, basically he lost 80 meters.
So this information you have always on your visual, that you lost 80 meters in the last lap, and you hear the actual air in your earpiece, so you can estimate, yes, if I did it this time, I can do it the next time as well. And as soon as the vario might go very bad, then you need to hope.
Hope is probably the right word. As Philip just explained, I had no not much option left, and I also didn't know how many laps Toby really had, because it's kind of a mind game also who was flying in first. But as they said before, I knew I had 190 meters left and I needed 80 laps, 80 meter per lap. 80 and 80 is 190, so thank you very much. It's just going to play out. So I was taking the course really sharp with a sharp index, and it played out. And I actually, honestly, I thought Toby has 11. I was sure he has 11. So you can also see on the Chocofly Facebook channel, the final glide is online as a 5. And I was lying on the ground crying because I was sure I have one less lap. And then Toby was like, I have 9. And I said, I have a 10.
Now you are below
Okay.
100 meters.
Now below, you see how low I am?
Or the last one.
Yeah, actually the air got bad, and now you really, as I said, you need to hope. And I know that Daniel would try and take every patch of good air. And in here with 90 meters at this point, normally it's easy. And as we are in the morning with intermediate winds and intermediate thermals, it was okay. The only thing which could have stopped Daniel right now, if he would have only had 30 more seconds, because that's not enough. You would need right now 55 to 60 seconds to finish this lap.
I think I had about 10 seconds left or something like that. So we calculated it with the speed and the altitude, and I know my plane quite well by now. So getting lower, I was accelerating because I was running out of time. And really, I was focusing on my kind of flight, because I had to make the right tactics in terms of altitude and time. At the end of the day, it rather works out. You have no option to go anywhere, right? So I'm finishing, and I made the 10th lap.
So in this, you can clearly see what this tool is all about and what it brings you when you're at home and you want to follow a race somewhere across the globe, and you can replay everything, and you can figure out which pilot got his points, or where he was lucky, or where he really made a tough decision which paid out, or where he probably made a mistake.
So this platform, the rcmodelspot.com, it's free for everybody to follow this competition, the hits. As I explained at the beginning, it's the unofficial scoring, as not all the pilots uploaded the flights, so maybe some of the pilots will be missing on the reply. And basically what I could say from analyzing this flight is basically just Danny had better thermal over here. He wasted very little time to gain on Tobias. Tobias had a very weak thermal here, and especially at the beginning. But at the end, even at that point, when Danny was 280 meters lower, that doesn't mean he will be behind the guy. So never give up. Always push the plane, not too fast, not too slow. Use the correct thermal, and you are on the way to the heaven and to the first place.
I would say that was perfect word from Andrew. Thank you very much. You guys actually saw tonight the future, and the future will be really bright for GPS flying. You guys can create your own competitions at home, fly on the weekends with your friends, having tons of fun. And on Monday in the office, when you're bored, you can analyze those flights and lose it, hopefully not the job. Great is you can also analyze our pilots, or like our contest pilots. You can analyze all our World Championship flights. The tools have tons of options. It is the future. We have systems which are running nicely. We have a beautiful World Championship this week, where we have many countries participating. Next year we will have a scale World Championship, of course, somewhere here in Germany. And we are looking forward with Andrej to have this tool working. And I want to say thank you from our side. And if you want to come to Erbach tomorrow night, at the Friday night, is the hangar party. We are sitting at the hangar. So please come to visit us. We have also not just tons of flights left, we have tons of beer left. And I will give the final speech to Philip.
So maybe you've seen it, we're in the hangar, maybe you hear some voice besides that, because we were trying to show this to you at the very beginning of this stage. We didn't want to waste any time just going into a nice studio and so on, because we just thought Andrej did such a great job. Let's do it here, let's present it to you, and I hope I will see you, or we will see you somewhere around on an airfield flying GPS Triangle. So stay tuned.